Hello guys, how are you today? Today we'll explain document 4 in chapter 1, which is the hormonal secretion cycle. In this video we'll explain the hormonal regulation of female reproductive cycle. We will start by the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus regulates the hormones released by the anterior pituitary. The hypothalamus releases the GnRH hormone, which is the gonadotropin releasing hormone. Now, GnRH stimulates the anterior pituitary to produce two hormones. The two hormones are the FSH, which is the follicle stimulating hormone, and the LH, which is the luteinizing hormone. These hormones will travel to the female ovaries via blood. But what happens in the female's ovaries? Actually, we will see the variations in the ovaries, in the uterus, and the hormonal regulation of these two cycles, which are the ovarian cycle and the uterine cycle. So as you see, this slide will summarize the ovarian cycle, the uterine cycle, and their hormonal regulations. Now, first, it all starts with GnRH, which stimulates the anterior pituitary to produce FSH. So it starts, the ovarian cycle starts when FSH reaches the ovaries by blood and stimulates the primordial follicle to mature. This starts the follicular phase. Now, the follicular phase, as we know, it is the change of the primordial follicle to primary follicle, secondary follicle, and Graafian follicle. As you see, this is the follicular phase. And as you see here in the diagram, you can see how the primordial follicle is changing to primary, secondary, and Graafian follicle. And as we know that the follicle, the ovarian follicle, secretes estrogen. So, in the follicular phase, the estrogen concentration in the blood increases, which acts on the hypothalamus and causes the increase in the GnRH, as you see here. So, when the estrogen level increases, it causes the increase in the GnRH production, which will act on the anterior pituitary and causes the increase in LH, which is the luteinizing hormone. Note that the estrogen causes the endometrium to develop and regenerate. Now, the massive increase in LH here triggers ovulation, and we know that ovulation occurs at day 14 of the cycle. So, at this day, the oocyte will leave the ovaries and pass to the fallopian tube. Meanwhile, in the ovaries, the Graafian follicle will change, or the ruptured follicle will change to corpus luteum. And we know that the corpus luteum secretes estrogen and progesterone that will inhibit the secretion of GnRH, which leads to the decrease of LH levels. At the same time, progesterone stimulates the further development of the endometrium. Now, in the absence of fertilization or pregnancy here, the corpus luteum will change to corpus albican, which is an inactive structure, as you know. So, the progesterone and estrogen level decrease in the blood. This causes the shed of the endometrium, which is menstruation, as you see here. Okay? And as well, it stimulates the secretion of GnRH to start a new cycle